Good day, everyone. How are you? I hope that you're all feeling good despite of the pandemic, despite of the health crisis that we are facing. Nevertheless, we have to accept the reality, and part of that is to embrace the new normal. And by doing so, remind yourselves to follow the health protocols at all times. Please be reminded of the following. Be healthy and be clean. Always clean and disinfect, and always observe social distancing. Alright, so before we formally begin with our session, let us pause for a while for our prayer. Now, let me check your attendance. May I know who are absent aside from Mr. Liaban who can't join our session today for some urgent matters? Alright, so only Mr. Liaban is absent today. Now, may I ask a volunteer to give a recap of our previous lesson or a brief recall on what we have tackled last meeting? Yes. Last meeting, we talked about writing a concept paper. When we say concept paper, it is a short document written by a researcher before writing a research project. Or we also call it a research proposal, which explains what is the research all about, the purpose, and the methods in conducting the research. And for today's lesson, please be guided with our learning objectives. At the end of the lesson, the students are expected to 1. Perform a debate to the class, identify the various kinds of position paper, and write a position paper based on the given topic. Well, it's always good to begin our class with an activity, right? Last meeting, I asked you to research about this topic, recognizing COVID-19 vaccines in the Philippines as public good. I believe you were able to take notes, all the details regarding with this topic. The COVID-19 vaccine is really a pressing issue today. Well, class, if you notice, people continuously take sides and form opinions based on anything that involves them or relates to them, right? That is why it is therefore important that we learn how to properly outline our thoughts and ideas to create a valid arguments. That is why we are having this activity today. For this activity, you're going to practice that skill in creating a valid arguments. We will have an informal Asian parliamentary debate this time. So we will have two teams, the government and the opposition side, with the motion recognizing COVID-19 vaccines in the Philippines as public good. Since I have already pre-grouped you into two groups, Group 1 will be the government team and Group 2 will be the opposition team. The government team will be the one to support the motion and the opposition team will be the one who will go against the motion. And this is the order of our speeches. So you need to select at least 6 best speakers of the House and you will have a first speaker that will be given a time to speak for 2 minutes, the same with the second speaker. And you will have at least 3 speakers for the rebuttal, and that will be done for 5 minutes. In the rebuttal part, you are going to throw questions and answer them. And you should have your final speaker to give the concluding speech. Class, remember that during our debate proper, we will have an alternating speeches between the two groups. And I also sent you the debate rubrics for your reference. So kindly look at it before we will have the debate proper. Congratulations, everyone. You have done so well in our debate. Wow, I was quite amazed with your performances. Now, let me ask you these questions based on the activity that we have done earlier. What is your stand on the issue? Does the speaker successfully showed his or her claims about the issue? What do you call that kind of writing that tells about the position on a certain issue? Yes, you're correct. That is position paper. Now, what do we mean by position paper and how do we do that? A position paper is an essay that presents an arguable opinion about an issue. The goal of position paper is to convince the audience that your opinion is valid and worth listening to. Ideas that you are considering need to be carefully examined in choosing a topic, developing your argument, and organizing your paper. In other words, position paper is the writer's stand or viewpoint in a certain issue. It also entails outlining arguments and proposing the course of action. Aside from this, when you are writing a position paper, you are actually given the power to change the attitude and opinions of other people. Therefore, when you are writing a position paper, that can be an essential tool in bringing out societal change. Example, if you don't agree with a certain issue or rule, you can actually create or write a position paper out of that to reflect your viewpoint. Another thing, position paper is not just a mere opinion of an individual. It is based on facts that provide a solid foundation for your arguments. So, you need to give a valid proof and evidences to support your position. Now, let's move on to the kinds of position paper. We have four. First is expositive writing. It tries to answer questions of the form, what did A say or think about P? Or what did Vice President Leni Robredo say or think about President Rodrigo Duterte? And what did A mean in the following passage? So here in expositive writing, you are going to expose or you are going to describe the situation or the issue. Or if it's a passage or if it's a writing that you're going to describe, simply you have to vent out your emotion out of it. You need to expose and describe how you feel about the issue. So that is expositive writing. We also have comparative. It takes up the questions like how are position X and Y are similar and how do they differ? What is the relationship between the arguments for X and Y? So in this type of writing, this requires to defend your claims of commonality and differences. I think this is the most common one because we tend to compare and contrast two things here. So we give what are their similarities and differences in the particular issue given. Next is evaluative. It considers the questions as is position P plausible? Is the argument P strong or weak? If a position seems to contradict with what we know, or if we can find a case which seems to contradict the position that marks against the position. So here in evaluative kind of position paper, you are going to give your personal assumption or your personal evaluation with a certain issue. Do you think it is strong or do you think it is weak? And you have to give or state the reasons why you think so. So that is evaluative. And for the last kind of position paper, we have constructive. Unlike expositive, comparative, or evaluative writing, the questions it considers are less directly concerned with pre-existing position or arguments. I think constructive is the lightest among all other kinds of position papers because here in this part, you are going to give what is your opinion in a certain issue. It will be a free-flowing opinion given in the issue. Class, Remember that in defending a position of our own usually involves an analysis and evaluation of particularly relevant and influential work in order to elucidate or advance our own position, carefully supporting our position with argument and responding to actual or potential objections. So we have to be careful with the people who will object with our position. So in order to secure our position, we have to consider pieces of evidences and valid proofs for our position. How are we going to do that? So we need to provide statistical evidences or dates and events to support our position. Also, we can examine the strengths and weaknesses of that issue. And we can also give a possible solutions and suggest a course of action. And by doing so, we can assure that our position will be the strong one, will be a valid one. So that is position paper. And now, let's have the 3 steps in writing a position paper. We have introduction, body, and conclusion. In introduction part, all you need to do is to introduce the topic. You need to provide background on the topic to explain why is it important. And in the body part, you need to provide supporting information for counterclaims, and you need to give evidences for argument. And in the conclusion part, you need to restate your argument, restate the argument in different words, and then discuss its implications. Now, do you have any questions about position paper? If none, let me ask you this. Why do you think writing a position paper important? Yes, very good. To convince the audience that your opinion is valid. It is very important to ensure that you are addressing the key components of the issue and presenting it in a manner that is easily for the audience. Writing a position paper does not only require research skills, but also involves the ability to critically think the information you gather through research. This time, let's have another activity. So I will be dividing you into 4 groups and assign you with different types of position papers. Group 1 will have the expositive, 2 comparative, 3 evaluative, and 4 constructive. Each group will be given a text on a certain kind of position paper. Then you are going to cite the important parts of it. The introduction, body, and the conclusion from the text with the use of flowchart. So we will have the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. You need to give what are the contents, or what does the introduction contain. The same with the body and the conclusion. Okay? Alright, so for our assessment, you need to write a position paper of your choice about any of the following. So you need to select 1 out of the 3 given topics. What is your position about the Philippine government response to COVID-19 pandemic? What is your position about education goes on amid pandemic through DepEd's continuity plan? And what is your position about death penalty? So you need to choose 1 issue out from the 3 and write your own position paper. And you need to use the given graphic organizer in writing a position paper. So you should have your intro, body, and conclusion. And class, kindly also refer to the given rubric for your position paper for you to be guided, and that will serve as your reference in writing your position paper. And for your assignment to be submitted next meeting, you need to have it by group. So each group will look for a sample of a position paper to be presented in the class. So the same type of position paper, and you need to use your resourcefulness. Again, so this will be the end of our session. I hope that you have learned from it and always remember to follow our health protocols at all times. Thank you so much for listening and may God bless us all.